Tony loves making David insane. So why don't you come on and join us for an episode of O'Brien's No Brains?
David, have you seen The Holiday?
I love The Holiday. It's amazing.
Yeah.
You asking a straight person if they've seen The Holiday is like me, you like asking you, do you like soccer, Tony?
Cameron Diaz has my dream job in it. She's like editing trailers.
Yeah. I would love to edit trailers. It feels so much easier than editing a full movie.
Yeah, because it's, 2 minutes?
You don't have to have a conclusion. You can just have you can leave it on a cliffhanger. So it's a lot easier because you don't have to have a full narrative through line. You just have to catch people's attention.
The things that I edit, like I can't really call them trailers. I'm calling them more like cinematic recaps. Because some people are like, you give away the whole plot. I'm like, well, yeah, like this is meant to be a spoiler-free trailer for the episode.
Yeah, in case people haven't seen this 20-odd-year-old TV show, this episode from Buffy, it's like, don't need to watch it now. It's like, if you haven't already, you probably won't.
Although, to be fair, like Tony and I, we talked about this last time we recorded. The trailers for every Buffy episode doesn't actually tell you what's happening. In fact, it's incredibly misleading. And you'll watch it, especially the Angel ones, you'll watch it and be like, none of this happened in the episode. In fact, they'll pull in like previous clips from past episodes just to throw that in there and really like make you think something else is going on.
Sarah, do you want to do the intro?
Sarah.
Hi guys, welcome back to All Browns No Brains bite-size edition, except it's probably going to be a little bit more than that. I am your host today, Sarah, and I'm interviewing the boys. Welcome, guys.
The boys.
Hi.
Okay, so we're going to jump in. So you guys have talked a little bit about kind of, at least Tony has, about why you decided to start the podcast and kind of like why Buffy was your choice. But I kind of want to know like what specifically was the catalyst for, or like how did you start that conversation? Because I'm assuming, Tony, you started it and brought it up to Dave. And Dave, what was your perspective when he brought it up to you? Were you instantly like, yeah, let's do this? Or were you kind of like,
It was my idea.
Was it your idea?
Not Tony's. So Tony had came to, am I allowed to tell the proper story, Tony?
Yeah, you can tell the real story.
So Tony came back to Ireland for our mutual best friend Fiona, got married, and Tony had come home 3 weeks off crystal meth. Tony was addicted to crystal meth and had told me about this. And then
Sorry. Just like Sarah's like, oh my God, this is so deep.
No, it's fine. I just don't know what all you guys have talked about on the pod. So like if there's any repeat questions, you can tell me.
when he had told me, you told me over the phone about it and we were talking about it, and then he came home, it was, Tony had a big realization that like was probably quite nervous. I remember, this is my perspective, I think Tony was very nervous about coming home because maybe he had gotten quite successful in his life doing a lot of stuff, doing a lot of Vogue shoots, doing like things for this massive shoe company, it's called Shoe, and was like the editor-in-chief for whatever of the photography and everything, whilst also maintaining a drug lifestyle and probably helped perpetuate it and stuff in this really unhappy marriage. Tony, in my opinion, finally had the bravery to get rid of that bastard of a husband of his, moved in by himself, sorted his fucking life out basically, and then also got clean off drugs. I'm using the word clean, Tony, I know you don't like that, but sorry, it's just a vernacular. I'm not meaning it to mean that you're dirty if you take drugs. Stopped taking the drugs. Came home quite anxious, thinking that he would get judged, but that's not the people that we have in our lives around here, because Tony hadn't been home in quite a while, and realised that he was quite loved and missed, and all people kept saying to Tony is like, we want you to come home, why are you not coming home, why are you living there, please come home. And then we ended up having this conversation in my house about how to keep Tony distracted away from thinking about drugs this early period of him staying sober. And I am a massive fan of The West Wing. And one of my favourite podcasts that I've ever listened to, and it's finished now, is The West Wing Weekly. And the way The West Wing Weekly worked was they had Rishi, who is Tony with Buffy, and you, Sarah, with Buffy, these experts. He has seen The West Wing, like me, the way I am about The West Wing, the way you are about Buffy. I fucking obsess over it. I love it so much. I think it's amazing. I know the nitty-gritties and all that stuff. And then they had one of the characters in later on in the season who had never seen an episode of it. Maybe a couple of times when it aired, but had never watched it. So it was this expert layman. So then you have the expert taking you through the episode, and then the layman adding their bits and pieces. And they used to clash all the time. And I would fundamentally disagree with so much of what the layman was saying, but they've only ever seen it once, and I enjoyed the that they didn't just agree on everything and say, yes, this is amazing, was this amazing, this is amazing, this is amazing, this is amazing. It was like, actually, no, it was Wick. And he's like, what? This is the best shot. I was like, no, it's nonsense. And it's like, so I said to Tony, why don't we do a little podcast? We'll call it Up the Buff. It was just a silly name, just as something to do. And he'll be the expert because Tony knows so much about Buffy and I have never really seen it. And then, but I know that we can be funny. I know we can be entertaining because Tony and I are both funny and entertaining in my opinion. And let's just do the podcast. And it just literally then gave Tony I think, a little something to hold on to. And then obviously Tony with his talents and his nature to just dive deep into something carried the idea on. I come episode per week. We've now got it where I would script it and I take us through the episode and then Tony gives us his expertise on behind things, what his opinion is on it. That wasn't how it started out, but we've figured that out as we go along. But I very much am Leah. I show up with just about enough done and just enough, and then I will go on with my day and leave Tony to deal with the rest of it. I don't listen to any of the comments on the internet. I don't look at any of that stuff. It's just, but I have a few things that I do as well. So that is a little background into how I got started. It was not Tony that started. It was my idea. It's all because of me, not that prick.
Well, actually, if I hadn't been addicted to meth, it wouldn't have happened.
Yeah, that's a really good point, actually. So thank God you were addicted to meth. No, I'm joking. Sorry, I was joking on a biscuit.
Karma.
Anything I was wrong there about Tony? I think that was it.
Slightly the timeline. I'll very quickly correct. I came home for my friend Fiona's wedding. My friend Fiona. I came home for our friend Fiona's wedding, and I had such a great experience being in Ireland with all people I hadn't seen in so long that it just really made me. That was the thing that was the catalyst for me wanting to get sober, because I was like, I realized that I was in a place where I wasn't really protecting relationships, that people who valued me. So then I went back to Glasgow and silently started to get sober. When I came back then, at that point I had been sober for maybe like a month and a half or something, and that was us like starting to have a conversation about the podcast, and it was a real throwaway thing that just like it just became.
I remember it so vividly. You were on the yellow chair and I was facing you and I was like, here.
I remember eating like mozzarella sticks and like chicken dippers. I think we're eating like an air fryer, like gourmet meal.
Yeah, air fryer dinner.
Because I literally was like, am I going to be able to start a podcast about the thing I love the most in the world, and finally convince someone like David to watch it with me? So I was so excited, and that was the birth of Up the Buff.
I love that.
AKA All Bronze No Brains.
All Broads No Brains, yes. No, I love that. That's really unique because I don't think I've ever heard of the layman asking to start the podcast or to watch a show that they've never watched before. Typically, it's the seasoned vet that's over there like, please, I've been trying to get you to watch this for years. And then they kind of have to like strong arm their friend into it and stuff. But so you guys have been podcasting now for a year and a half. And Dave, I want to know, I mean, obviously you can listen along to the show and stuff and kind of get your thoughts, but what do you think of the show so far for like the amount that you have seen? I know you've seen other episodes here and there in the future, but like of what you've watched up until now, what are your thoughts overall?
It's a flippin' great TV show. It definitely is. This season, specifically season 3 that we're on, is turning me from someone that's watched it to a fan, because it's the characters are now, except for this episode we just watched today, the characters are showing a lot of depth and a lot of nuance to their behaviors, and it isn't just one-dimensional. It's season 1 is what you do when you're establishing the characters, and then you get to like flip the character on their head. Season 2 is great, halfway through season 2 to the end, unbelievable TV. And I always know when I'm cutting into a good period because Tony will have accidentally watched the next episode and then 6 other episodes along with it, and I'm like, okay, I can trust that these are hooky as hell. And there was times in the end of season 2 I did watch 3 or 4 episodes back to back a couple of times because I had to do the editing or the writing up of the notes, and I can recognize that it is of its time. When it comes to certain behaviors, like saying that people are gay and disgusting and stuff like that, you can get that now. And like things we talk about AIDS and stuff, certain like things that happen in time, and also 24 episodic seasons. Like that's such a rare thing. So there is filler, and I can accept that filler has to happen or else they wouldn't have been able to deliver it. I understand it's a business as well as a fucking TV show that it's like, so even this episode we watched today, There's only few times that I've ever gotten emotionally angry at something instead of just being like, oh, this is so stupid. There's a few episodes that have, but that's usually because there's something about the episode that is specific to me in my life, which is showing that it's doing its job by making me think about something. So I think it's a really, really good TV show. And if I didn't care, I wouldn't have an opinion.
Mhm.
I wouldn't get annoyed when I get annoyed because apparently I don't watch our show back. I just do the show and then I never think about it again because I can't. It's the same when I sing. I don't watch myself back. It's just something I can't do. But I see people would comment the odd time saying, "Oh God, Dave's crashing out again." I was like, "What the fuck is he editing me doing now?" But like, I know I do have an opinion. And that's why I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm here to give an opinion, and sometimes I may emote that opinion quite big because I'm a big emotional guy, but I think it's fucking class. I think it's a really good I'm excited to see. I know there's a few bits and pieces that come up. I'm excited for season 5. I know season 5 is an absolute knockout and I'm really, really looking forward to get to that. But I think like anything, they can only be great because you've watched everything up to that point. If I was to jump onto season 5, it hasn't like the things I get the most disappointed about in any of the episodes is when they've tried to give me something without giving me any build up to it. You're like, no, don't make me have an emotional feeling for this when you haven't ever spoken about this before up until now. So anyway, to answer your question succinctly, yeah, it's really good.
Cool. Thanks.
It's cool. Thanks.
Okay, so you guys I'm going to skip a couple of things here, but you guys have been friends for a long time. Very clearly have a close friendship that is very comfortable and honest and vulnerable. And it's one of the things that makes your dynamic and your podcast very unique. Obviously, me and my sisters have known each other for a long time, and I know that is something that like people really enjoy our dynamic, and I think that's also why people tune in and listen to you guys too. Not to mention you also have great things to say and stuff. But especially with one of you being gay, one of you being straight, especially two men doing a podcast on Buffy. I know, I sorry, didn't mean to out you, Dave. But like,
couldn't remember which.
Yeah, could I remember which one it is? But I think that a lot of people, like that dynamic is very different. Typically when there's two guys doing a podcast on Buffy, they're both gay. And so I'm very curious, how do you guys think that dynamic influences the show and also like how it makes your podcast different?
That's a great question.
I didn't know. See, this is my lack of. I'm not a Buffy fan, so I'd have no reason to watch any. No offense, I'm very sorry, Sarah, but I have no reason to watch any of the things. I'm already, and also
you're a straight guy. You're the demographic that's going to probably watch Buffy the least.
But potentially, yeah. But I actually know so many of my friends that did watch it.
Really?
They just don't become, but they didn't become fanatical.
Right. They'll be like, this is fun, but yeah, it doesn't really hit as hard.
Like my friends who were like fantasy and like Lord of the Rings. This is fantasy and it's lore. People who like that sort of fantasy and lore stuff. I'm thinking like our friend Chris Gein and stuff. He'll seen Buffy back when, and but I didn't know there would be a difference in the dynamic. I didn't know that was a thing. I didn't know that everyone would be gay. I didn't. But obviously, maybe I did know it was a bit of a gay. Well, usually when it's a female centric thing, it's like men can't like things when the girl's a female lead because like But that's not. I don't think I'd be your typical straight person.
The name is really intentionally off-putting for a lot of straight guys. They hear Buffy the Vampire Slayer and instantly go, oh my gosh, it's a girly show. Like, I don't want to watch that. That sounds too camp. That sounds too feminine for me. And then I think when they actually give the show a chance, they end up liking it, but not a lot of guys give it a chance.
She is my favorite character, which I love as well, that she is the best, like, as an all-rounder, like, in the way that she develops and flows. Like, I love Buffy, and Buffy could be a guy. It doesn't make a difference to me, the character, but still, it is much more interesting that she's a small, tiny girl. It's super strong, but, like, it isn't just her, it's her bravery. She's Harry Potter, do you know what I mean? It's her, she's not the smartest, she's not the whatever, but she has the most biggest heart, and she's the bravest, and she will stand in front of everybody, and it's something in that, like, I probably do a little bit of, like, I'm a big Harry Potter fan, so I would do a little bit of, like, I marry the two sometimes because we have Willow who's the smartest and we have like dopey Ron Xander, and it's like, but he has his part in it all. But she just happens to be female. That's all the difference is, and it's like any straight. I tell people about the podcast all the time, like, oh, Buffy. I'm like, it's an amazing TV show. You should go watch it. Shut the fuck up. But I don't know, Tony. You might have a better idea of what the dynamic would feel, especially because you watch and listen to a lot of Buffy podcasts.
I think the dynamic, like, I don't really think about it because this has just been our dynamic for 27 years, pretty much. But I do like that it sets us hopefully apart, like, a little bit. And I do also like that because, and Sarah can attest to this, David, as well, that, like, I like that David just completely shares what he thinks, like no holds barred, like just as some proof, David, like I was talking to Sarah about, like, we've had real disagreements, but I like David is like, I like having a different 2025 lens to like compare against my nostalgia because it makes the conversation interesting. I think maybe that is one of the things, is that having David be a straight man and call out toxic masculinity in other men, I think is actually really important, because it's very easy to be two gay
Totally
guys calling
agree.
out straight guys, but it's
Yep.
quite powerful for a straight man to be calling out toxic masculinity where
Yeah.
he sees it as well. So well done, David.
Well, it's not. I just get really annoyed, as like I'm a person. I am an emotion. I don't understand. I am a big believer in this. I have a couple of nephews, and I'm talking about this all the time. If I ever say to them, "Have you any girlfriends or boyfriends?" I don't have an assumption that they may be straight or gay, or if they're getting up. Like, for example, Tony and I have had difficult conversations together, and Tony, I would be the more emotional one. I cry all the time. I would well up way more than Tony would well up. Tony's a lot more stoic in his emotions. I actually find gay men at times are a lot more stoic because it's assumed that they're going to be more effeminate to have emotions. I'm like, but we don't tell people off for laughing. And laughing is a spur of the moment emotional thing that happens, humor and funniness. And like, to cry at something that's emotional seems to be judged, not by women, and no offense, from women. If I cry, my female friends, I've been going through a bit of a difficult time myself in the recent time, and I've been quite quick to cry, and I've been allowing myself to cry when I want to cry, because it's not good to hold that shit in. And like, my male friends are the first to come over and give me big hugs and big squeezes, and it's like, but my female friends get very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's very interesting, because they're used to that stoic male thing, and it's sometimes
Especially
that
in Northern
perpetuation
Ireland.
can come from, especially in
Okay.
Northern Ireland. And I'm just quick to call out toxic masculinity, no matter where it's coming from, but it's very much coming from Xander most of the time, or it's coming from the writer of Joss Whedon, whenever he's just reducing men to the comic quip and not actually giving some emotional depth, until you get to like Angel, and he's fully in love with this woman, and like all this stuff, and blah blah blah. 200 years old and she's 16, still weird. That 184-year age gap is wild to me.
That's what it feels like for me now, going on Grindr.
That's what it feels like to the other people on Grindr as well, when this old man comes on, and they're like, who's this old man time coming on? And
People starting to call me daddy. I'm like, okay, that's time to come off Grindr.
because it could be true.
I feel like a Schmidt from New Girl. I'm always like, youths. I'm so old now.
I think there's been times that I've called up Tony, because there would be a tendency for like, well, I have to watch myself. Well, I would ask the question.
There's a double standard where I, as a gay man, know that I can push way more than, and I'm aware of that double standard too, where I can say a lot of like things about men that if David were to say about women would not be acceptable, but people find it funnier. However, straight white men have never been under the wheel of oppression, and sometimes that's the only way, I can get away with that.
100%. Punching up, punching down's two very different things. It's like, I get that I am in the, life is easier for me generally because I'm a big, and in Northern Ireland, Protestant white man, and it makes, but it's like, there are men who see that and see it as a challenge, instead of going like when people, like, I never feel the need when someone's like, if someone talks about a guy being creepy, I would never ever feel the need to be like, I wouldn't be like that. It's like, I assume that people know I'm not like that, or like, I'm a feminist. I was like, I don't need to say that. You should assume that until someone proves it otherwise, just because. And I think all I try to do is show with my behavior and my compassion, I guess, is like, this is what, for other men to see that it's okay to be vulnerable, and it's okay to enjoy things that are deemed feminine when it's actually, it's bullshit. We are all both things. There are women that I know are the most stoic and most what would be deemed masculine, and still straight, and enjoy having sex with men, but they just happen to have passions in soccer or football or rugby, and because that's just the way sometimes your brain just enjoys a thing because that's what you enjoy. And I think it's if we are hopefully creating a bit more of a norm that straight men can watch this, it's just mad to me that I didn't realize. That's a really class question, Sarah, because I didn't even realize that was a thing.
Yeah.
Not many people would call me straight.
I think that's something that adds to the dynamic too, is because that wouldn't be people's automatic assumption, is that you're this straight guy. It hasn't been people's automatic assumption, definitely when it's come to doing the podcast. So I like to think that we've brought our dynamic is really like on a spectrum
Mhm.
of issues, and we don't bring a binary of like this is your straight view and this is my gay view.
Mhm.
Yes.
So we're presenting, I think, the start of the spectrum, the end of the spectrum, and we hope that people will join us in between rather than on either end.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry,
It's
that
so
probably
good,
sounded
Tony.
quite sexual.
I know, I was trying not to turn it. Sorry, Sarah.
All
No,
right.
you're fine. You guys are like going from like talking about an episode performance mode to like a more serious like interview thing. So you're like trying not to think of it. And yeah. Okay, so my next question is obviously again you guys have been friends for a very long time, and like how do you think doing a podcast together has changed your friendship, if at all?
It has, definitely, for the better. Like 100% for the better. Even today, Tony, I'm not going into it, but today, like, we had a big conversation earlier on because I was struggling with some stuff, Tony was struggling with some stuff, because there is a merging of the two.
Mhm.
That it is, we don't come at it coldly. I
Mhm.
never commit. Like, there's been times that if either of us are not in the headspace, we'll be like, can I not today? Because I'm not going to be able, because we try to be honest.
Mhm.
But I try to do it with a bit of humor and a bit of like not so serious. But it has definitely shown, because it's being on camera and being recorded and Tony has to edit it again, like it highlights some behaviors that and habits that we've maybe carried from early age
Mhm.
into our adult life and into our getting into our middle age now, Tony. It's like where we have to check ourselves every so often and be like, actually, can we sit down and be like, there's just like Tony, for example, we were in the car together. And I don't think he could have done this if it wasn't for the podcast. We're driving around, and I was just being a irritable fuck. I'm a quintessential little brother, the way Leah's a quintessential little sister. This is why me and Leah are like the same when we're on the podcast together, like making faces and stuff. And I was like, oh yeah, I get it. We are both little. We are the youngest. I get it. And it's like, but Tony was not in a good headspace. And Tony, instead of maybe passive aggressively calling me a fat cunt or like whatever, but like or fully aggressively calling me, he's like, David, can I get you to stop? Be quiet for a while because you're really irritating me. My intent is genuinely never to piss him off.
Mhm.
I maybe want to invoke a bit of something in him, but I don't actually
Mhm.
want to make it. I love him. He's my brother, so I don't ever want to upset him. And if he's in a place where I haven't caught on that he isn't in a good
Mhm.
headspace, I love that he feels comfortable. But that definitely didn't exist until before the podcast,
Yeah.
because we realized that to make the podcast good, we have to be in a good place in our relationship.
Mhm.
It makes it better. And there's definitely been times we've been strained on the podcast, but yeah, I think for me, it's made it better.
It's matured our friendship, and it's also brought it to a place of like real honesty. Like that moment in the car, I remember what I said was like, I don't think we should speak to each other like that, because I just think
Mm.
that that's not how we should. And that was like a turning point for us, and being like, because our humor would naturally be very that way, but even though we can be that way like on certain episodes, we try our best now to not be as much like that in our actual friendship,
Mhm.
because we're both in places where we recognize the importance of words, and especially when you're watching a show and dissecting it where there's a lot of comedy and humor and stuff, and you see that people are like not great friends all the time. And the podcast has made us put our friendship above almost like everything else, which has been really, really good for me.
It sort of is like, and I used to describe this as like the way people would have kink relationships, or maybe have a quite extreme kink play in their sex lives, but with that, a lot of love has to go in. So like if Tony and I are taking the piss out of each other in the podcast, outside of it we can't do that. We need to be so loving and nice to each other, because I'm happy to be, I think most of the time I'm usually the butt of the joke in the podcast. I'm really okay with that. I'm okay to be if it's the Smothers Brothers,
I
the one
think you think that I edit you like mental, but Sarah will tell you she's watched, like, you come off so good in the podcast. Like,
No, I don't think I come off bad. I just know that you don't take the piss out of yourself. You take the piss out of me mostly, or like,
I don't know.
I know you take it. Hang on. Okay, relax. Let me just get to the end of my sentence.
Don't
before you
tell me to
interrupt
relax, you fucking
I'm
bitch.
just saying, well, gee, why are you getting so angry?
Listen, I hate when you're like this.
Well, I hate when you're fucking like this. But he, them, he says,
Them.
no. Whatever. You fucking made me lose a train of thought, you prick. No, we would like, it's just important that like I'm a big language person, and the brain, when it hears something repeatedly, it starts to believe it, whether or not it's said in humor. So I'm like, I actually can't, don't say those mean things to me out loud, because I'll believe you, because I have a low self-esteem. I've got stuff from my past. It means that, like, so I work on trying to love myself and trying to not say those mean words to myself even. So then if I'm getting it from my best friend, but I can do it when it is slightly performative, when it's on camera to the audience, because I'm happy for anything for the joke in my mind, because I'm a bit of a comedian. So I'm like, I'm happy to do whatever for the joke, but I don't really necessarily. Yeah, so it's important that when our actual relationship off air has to be so kind and loving, because when it marries and mixes, it gets a bit confusing, and I'm like, he fucking hates me, and he'll be like, he fucking hates me. It's not true at all. We're just trying to make each other laugh with that wrong humor. And then also in my head, I'm like, right, okay, if we can't be mean, we can still be funny. You can just do it in a completely different way, and it can be done in a different way. It's just laziness sometimes.
To be fair, it took us 46 episodes to have a disagreement that in any way we had to sit and talk about first. So I feel like we've done pretty good. That's what I'm to. And even after we had a chat and stuff today, it was like, I didn't want to have the chat when we were having it, but I genuinely felt so much better afterwards. And then the rest of the recording, I felt like it was brilliant. Like it was
It's
great.
a really good episode. I think it's going to be a good one when it's edited.
Yeah.
Because we were closer, because we talked about it. Like anytime, you know yourself, Sarah,
I
you're
love you,
married.
baby.
Whenever, I love you too, baby. But like, you know yourself, whenever you're like pissed off and aggravated with your husband, and he is with you, and then it's like, oh, we're gonna have to talk about this. And then when you do, you realize you both love each other so much, and it's actually
real friendship and love is a constant choice. And for men to admit that to each other, even gay men who are not raised to speak like that, is just, I think that's the thing that I love the most, is that
About us.
like, yeah, that you've made me a better lover, I should say.
It was that technique, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Sorry, Sarah.
But you've made
You're
me
fine.
like
You don't have to apologize.
But you've made me more comfortable with my sexuality as well, because remember, like it's when I listen back to old videos that I've done on YouTube, like Big Bad Llama stuff, like from my past, I didn't realize how much I code switched in terms of like my voice. Like my voice, like, come on, Ali, like do this, me like trying to, and now in the podcast, I'm just like, yes, I'm like total flaming it about. And there's something, and I've said this before, like the podcast has made me feel so secure and confident in that being part of my personality, that it's like, yeah, that's changed. So, and that's come from David being that, just letting me be myself. But you are an honorary faggot, so you can say whatever you want.
Thank you.
You too, Sarah.
Oh, thank you. So honored. Kind of transitioning more into like the nitty gritty of podcasting and stuff, and also like a little bit more in your guys' interaction with fans and stuff. Are there any aspects of podcasting that have surprised you through like the process, through the interaction with people, whether positively or negatively? Something you just didn't expect when you were like, hey, let's start a podcast.
Yeah, kind of the amount of work, but also like the kind of insane reception that people get when they like your stuff, that they really like your stuff, which is really lovely. It's like it does feel like you're genuinely building like a kind of grassroots community that supports you from like the ground up. And
It's
maybe
true.
that sounds silly to some people, but it's like Sarah, you've become someone that I can literally, when we started talking and then we found out we've got a similar background with like, spirituality and stuff, then we had you find out how you've got so much more in common with people than just the show. And that's a nice thing that makes you realize like that people are people. But I know that we're very lucky that we haven't encountered too many like toxic fandom people. But I think we're also trying to throw out there that we're not really going to be the type of people that are just going to okay that and let
Yeah.
that happen, because
Which I think
I
is
guess the
important.
community is what you cultivate it. But I think that is like the hard element, is to not get swept up in what people think about it, because once it's a double-edged sword, because it's important to create good content that is like entertaining, that people want to consume, but almost not so much to the point where it changes the content that you do, or that it doesn't become as natural or authentic. So that's like the goodness and the badness is like a double-edged sword for me.
I think that the thing I find interesting, well, the thing is, I'm not a social media, I just don't really like social media. I think it's a really dangerous, horrible thing. It's ruining the world and has ruined a whole generation of people. We're quite, Tony and I don't think you, Sarah, maybe from the age, but we're what's called the, what is it? The analog to digital age.
Yeah.
So I remember when there was no internet,
Yeah. I do
especially
too.
in Ireland,
Yeah.
and we had you had to be bored and you made music or you made like art or you did a thing if you're creative, which is what both me and Tony are, and then these things come up with these instant dopamine hits that you get from a like and a thing. So I'm very conscious, especially from doing music and having my own band and stuff, and being very like, we need more likes. We need more likes to be like when we did this podcast. And I've always said to Tony, it's very important because I know that I can get caught up in that, what I call not the real world. It's not the real world. I'm not saying they're not real people, but people become a different thing when they're on the internet. But if I had went and spoken to someone face to face, they would not say half the shit. If you made the people on the internet, and I think there's a TV show where they did get trolls into a room with people that they trolled and says like, now say it to their face, and they can't.
Yeah.
Because they are human beings and they suddenly have empathy because there's another human being with a heartbeat in front of you. But when it's just a blank thing and on an image that's fake, like the way we have in silver screens and from the time of like movie stars and stuff where you could just say anything you wanted. So I actively don't take a big investment in it. There was even especially the compliments, because someone complimented my physical looks on the last show there for some reason.
One of our blind watchers.
Stevie Wonder, I got there first, you prick. But I then had to mute all my notifications because I was like, oh, that's nice. And I was like, whoa, I'm not going to allow this to validate my feelings. It's like, not that I should, but I was like, because I am trying to lose weight and stuff. So I'm like, oh, that's cool. And I was like, whoa, that's not real. But the amount of work that Tony puts in is insane to me. Like, even as I'm typing up the little script, it takes me on a 40-minute episode probably 2 hours to type up because I stop and pause and do the thing and stop and pause and think of little things. And like, he used to do that and then edit and then do all the social media stuff and then do a trailer for it and then think, and it isn't even just the doing of it, it's the thinking of what is creative and funny, because Tony is consistently creating good, different, funny content with his the little edit jokes that he puts in and the clips and stuff. I am astounded, and that's why I'm like, can people please go to the Patreon so he can get paid for this shit? I'm not going to take any of that money. Don't worry, give it to him because it's so good. But and thank you. This is going to be on the Patreon, so thank you, folk who are listening to this on the Patreon, isn't it? Right,
It's
it's enough
gonna-
your compliments.
It'll start on our Patreon for
But
a
we'll stick
week,
it out.
and then it'll go. I'm gonna put it widespread.
Well, if you haven't, please do, because like if you're really enjoying it, neither of us, we don't do adverts. We don't get any money from this, and that's fine. But I have a job and I do loads of stuff. This is Tony's full-time job, and he's fucking nailing it. And if you're liking it, give him a couple of quid. Give us a couple of quid, but give him a couple of quid. There we go. I've done the advert, but I feel like
Every 45 seconds, a child starves to death. I am
Tony,
that
you have
child.
45 years before. Bad joke, sorry. Podcasting's fun. Like, it's really good fun. Like, getting to... And I didn't realize, like, I actually don't care. Once I've said it on the thing, I'm like, I trust Tony with it, and I'm like, whatever. It's just it's not, I don't know, I just don't get carried away with cancellation and all that stuff. I don't think it's real. I think you choose to be cancelled. Didn't think
my
I answered
God.
your questions either.
I'm not gonna.
Yes,
I'm
Tony?
not-
Dave, you cover several of my questions, so this is perfect. Just, being incredibly efficient. Okay, so what episode that you've recorded thus far are you the most proud of, and what episode in the future are you dreading the most to cover?
Tony, what about you? I don't know about, I kind of proud of them all because we did them. So
What episode am I the most proud of? I loved Becoming Part 2 because I was able to kind of pull in Buffy's coming out as a Slayer experience into
Yeah.
my coming out experience,
Mm.
and my mum came on to talk
Yeah.
about my coming
That's
out,
right.
and there was a really lovely response to that. So, and I think it was just really nice. It's just really nice for people. A lot of time in the gay world, we talk about, maybe being ostracized from our families or our parents or whatever, and I think it's nice for people to see, especially with my story. My parents didn't accept it at first, and then they changed because of their experience with me, and I just think that's a valuable thing that maybe doesn't happen as much anymore. I think I hear a lot of stories where people are like, you need to accept me or this is not. And I was that way when I was 17. I can admit that, like, my estrangement from my family came because I was being a drama queen, not because I was like, you have to accept me, blah, blah, blah. But obviously at 17, you don't have the nuance when you're a child to be like, to think that way. But it's just brilliant to have that conversation, and even for my mum to be able to speak out loud and be like, we love you and we're proud of you, and that was really lovely and affirming. Episode I'm dreading the most. I don't think I'm kind of
Already
dread.
happened. Already
Yeah,
happened.
to be yeah, I don't imagine there being much any other ones. I'm trying to even think. I actually said to David, I'm so excited for season 4, which normally is like it's like my least favorite of the bunch, but I'm excited because
There's so much to just make fun of.
there's and there's like the elements of like seeing the characters, seeing them try to adjust to like new dynamics and stuff. Like I think that was annoying at the time because it was like it was too
No, just
real or
make them in high
something.
school. I'm enjoying high school. Just let them stay there.
Yeah. But I
Mhm.
think, look, as an adult, it's such I think it's going to be so much more relatable to watch and see like all the things that they're struggling with or going through because they really are coming into their own as adults. Maybe the last episode ever, like did like just
Yeah.
kind of,
There's a
I'm
lot of
just kind
pressure
of,
on that one.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, I
Oh.
don't. Yeah, I don't really
I
dread many more. I'm
I
trying to.
don't know, but again, I like even I don't know. I don't know what to dread, so I don't probably the musical episode because I feel like I'm gonna have I because I'm a musician and that's my job. It's like I might, and I also love musical theater. Should I have a more like nuanced look at it or whatever? But I'm also looking forward to that then to see like no, I don't know. It's a really good episode. I have nothing to add to it, Probably the Proud one. I don't know if I think all of them genuinely because I'm like fuck, we're still doing this, Haas, because I know if we'd be I can like get really excited about something and it's like actually if I'm gonna say it would be the one that whenever I came back after taking a break.
Yeah,
That was the hardest one for me. And I was
Yeah.
like, because it's showing vulnerability, I needed to take a break for myself. It wasn't anything to do with the podcast, but it was to do with my own mental health, my own personal stuff. And having such a low self-esteem, low sense of self at that time, looking at myself was the thing that I struggled with. And I couldn't do the podcast. And I just, there's a lot of self-worth in that. And coming out of that and then coming back in and no one really giving a fuck. And also, like, not in any way that they didn't care, just been like, oh, cool, Dave's back. Do you know, there wasn't any, like, and it was, and I, and I think I changed maybe how much of my personal life I would bring into the podcast, as in like what's happening currently in my personal life into the podcast, because I'm like, I don't want to. It's a little bit of escape for me too, to not have to be in my life at that time, So I guess that the first one coming back after like all of you wonderful people sitting and guesting for me, was probably what I was proud of.
Yeah.
It was the hardest one because it was like quite ashamed, I guess, at the time. But then there was nothing to be ashamed of. It's like I was going through a difficult
Yeah.
time, and that's what happens.
So say yourself, Sarah. There's probably like different like levels of proudness and episodes where like, oh, I'm proud of the conversation we had in this, or I'm really proud of the edit in this one. Like I was really proud of the edit of when we did I Only Have Eyes for You, because I was doing 5 different individual like audios. So that was like an achievement for me in terms of like editing. But one of my favorite episodes that I've edited edit wise was Band Candy, because it's like it's only 48 minutes long and it's like start to finish it's like joke, and it just was. I felt like such a tight episode where I rewatched it like laughing out loud. So it's like, and I felt like I found my groove, and then I was like, oh no, it's just because the episodes are silly. That's why they're easier to get through. And now that we're getting into deeper stuff, I'm like, oh, we're back, we're back to like 2.5 hours.
The grind, the grind. Although when we're together, it changes as well because you don't have to wait. You can like pick up on things in the room a lot easier when we're in the same room, I find.
Yeah. Homecoming, when we recorded Homecoming, it was 59 minutes from start to finish together.
Oh, so it's a lot easier when you're in the same room together to record something?
I think if the episode is light, the way Homecoming was like kind of light, we're not overly dissecting scenes. I think the biggest thing we talked about, was Cordelia as like a dark mirrored version of Buffy's shadow self.
Right.
And that was kind of it. And then just like they're running around doing stuff. But yeah. I'm proud of all my babies.
No, I understand. I get it. Okay, so what advice would you guys give to podcasters that are just starting out, or even listeners out there who are thinking, hey, I think I might want to start my own podcast? What do you guys think you would tell them?
I think something I was going to say earlier on is that will relate back to this is that, Tony, you were saying that, as we've gotten more successful, the podcast, and more listeners, that it's like, and then we get more feedback. It's important to remember why people have started to listen to you in the first place. If you're leading people through a podcast, don't allow then the audience to lead your. Do you know, like whenever people watch Severance and then they watch episode per week and then they're like, I think this is what it is, and then they find it isn't, and then they get annoyed that they were wrong. It's like, I quite like that we still have, I think, held that we may have tightened it up and got it like our flow a little bit better, but we are still honest, and we're still, regardless of whether we think people like it or not, we still put it out because we like it. And I think that's what I would give the advice. If you start the podcast and whatever you're passionate about, stay passionate whether people like it or not, because if you are authentically true to yourselves, and I find that me and Tony are we would try to always be authentically true, and when we feel like we're going to do something because we think people might, that's the second that it drops. And it's whenever we just do it because we think it's good, because we think it's funny, and we are the gatekeepers to our own thing, and that's it. And as much as I love the community, being part of it and being part of that conversation, especially with Tony, and part of the conversation around it and understanding things better, it still isn't going to change me. It isn't going to change my opinion on Xander regardless, because I'm not going to lie to make someone watch the podcast.
Well, that's it. I think it comes down as well to like why, like if you're starting a podcast because you want to be recognized or you want to be famous, it's very different than starting something because you want to create good content. Like for me, I'm like, I wanted to create content that I love to consume, because and that's very noticeable in our podcasts. You can see the people I've been inspired by in terms of like the edit, in terms of like how I like even absorb like your podcasts are, and like kind of absorbing the analytical side of things and realizing that people also like that. So I've been really lucky to like keep true to myself, but also be able to take little bits along the way. And I think also to realize that like most likely you're probably not the only person in the world doing a podcast about that certain thing. They're like, if you don't feel like there's enough seats at the table, make a new table. Don't enter into it with a competitive mind. You know, where like I think that's one of the reasons why we work so well together as well, sir, is that like we don't feel, we're not competitive, and not just because we do different things, but because we genuinely see how like how it's only a bonus thing to like for the topic you love to have so many different things about it out there, like to be like, oh, I like this or I don't like. I'm like I just love that Buffy is still, as you know, at the forefront of
Relevant.
of media where people want to talk about it.
If I am feeling insecure because of somebody else doing something with their podcast that I feel like is really good, that's a reflection of me, not them. And that just means I need to be better, or I need to find my niche. And instead of, it's just, yeah, I agree with you. And I know a lot of it comes down to sometimes of like insecurity. And we all struggle with that for sure. Like, and there are times 100%, Tony and I've talked about, I've compared myself to other podcasts. Like, gosh, I'm not bringing in the numbers or whatever. Or we're not as funny as other podcasts. And it's like, at the end of the day, like, I didn't start the podcast to do that. I started it to have fun. And because I felt like I had something to contribute. And so it's like, I'm just going to keep doing that. And the people that resonate with that find you. And I think that then, like Tony says, you like, or was it Dave? One of you guys said about like making a space at the table. You just kind of go, I don't know if I fit in here, but I'm either going to create a new table and then eventually I get absorbed into the other one, or I have a bunch of other people that join my table and it becomes this really cool community of people who do things somewhat differently. And that's okay too, you know?
100%.
Love
That's
it.
a really good question. Oh, Sarah, you're so good at asking questions.
Yeah, you really are. It makes us feel so much way more professional because you're American as well.
I know, I do.
I don't know why
It
you
feels
think
really.
Americans are more professional.
I did not have sex with that woman.
Because I'm gay.
Just compare me to Bill Clinton. Oh, thanks. Thanks. Okay.
Yeah, I love Bill.
I have like 2 more questions and then I'm pretty much done. We can let you go, Dave. Okay, so what do you guys hope, kind of again, piggybacking off of what we've been talking about, what do you guys hope that listeners take away from your podcast? And what kind of legacy do you hope to leave behind when you eventually finish?
Oh, fucking hell.
Sorry.
That's good.
You can
Jesus.
think about it.
That's good.
I should have sent you the questions beforehand.
No,
Prepared.
this
No,
is
it's good,
better.
it's
No, I
better.
like this.
Okay,
This is
good.
good because then it would feel performed. I'll speak first because I don't know how not to talk.
It's okay. Me too.
I think I want, if I had a want from it, is to be like, it is really okay to disagree with someone.
Mm.
Do you know what I mean? It's perfectly fine, this thing that you love, and this other person either doesn't love it or does love it, comes in and has a different opinion. They're not wrong. But I'm really happy for Tony not to change my mind, but I'm happy to listen to his opinion. I trust his opinion. He's not trying to like tell me I'm wrong. He's just saying this is what he read.
We're having a conversation, not a debate.
I hope people go and watch Buffy, because there's some people that listen to us for us and don't watch the show. I know of a few. Yeah,
That's
this
crazy.
is the thing that we have. So
Yeah.
they enjoy the banter and the conversation, but they
That's
don't necessarily care
crazy.
about the show. We actually have a fair whack of people that would be like, loved your crack, don't watch the show, but like really enjoy listening to you two talk,
Wow.
which is an interesting
That's a
thing. So,
really interesting demographic for you guys to be reaching. That's cool.
yeah.
That's really
A lot
It's
of it is like
fascinating.
a lot of our Northern Irish friends are listening to it for us, or even like my mum, like some of her clients and stuff. Like she's older and she
Yeah.
does like private cleaning for people, and she's like has her friends like listening to it and stuff. And I think people listen to it because they're like, oh, it's a very Northern Irish thing to be like, that's so and so's son that like does this, you know. And it's really funny now to do something like media wise that people view as like an achievement. Because I like growing up being like, I'm a photographer, mom. Like I'm quite actually successful. Like I shot like New York Fashion Week, and it's like, yeah, whatever. And then it's like, oh, your Buffy podcast? Yeah, like your Buffy.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tony, that's the same. It's like I have performed and supported many, many artists. I have, been around Ireland and the UK touring and stuff. I go on TV once, so it was just me singing the same song 3 times to get on that TV show. Everyone's like, see, he was on The Voice. I'm like, that means nothing to me because there was no effort that went into that.
I
The
know.
fucking 10 years of the grind of trying to put your own band and your own music together there.
Mhm.
We should have really exploited that. It should have been like new podcast with David from The Voice.
Mhm.
What relevance would that be to us? We never,
Which is
actually,
funny.
people don't even know that I'm a musician. We never talk about the fact that I'm
the
a
Venn
singer in this
diagram of
show.
people that
I
watch
do.
Buffy and then also watch The Voice. There's probably some overlap there. Some
Yeah,
missed
there's
opportunities.
there's definitely, you've talked about singing quite. I've definitely made some jokes a lot where there's like ticking clocks or whatever when you start like talking about singing
Yeah,
or
fair.
music. But
Oh, but sure, I'm not the butt of the joke. What are you talking about?
that was just one time check, sure. But I think for me, like I hope that people take away like our genuine friendship from it, and I think like kind of piggybacking off what David said, I think that real friendship can
What'd you call
like stand the test of disagreements and whatever. I'd also just like I want to make people laugh. Like comedy, laughter is the best medicine, and we both like love comedy, and like we actively are trying to be funny, not because we think it's cool, but because we love to make people laugh.
Mhm.
And
Each
it's
other laugh.
Yeah.
Actually, it's like all I'm trying to do is make that prick laugh, and he's just trying to make me laugh with our jokes.
Yeah.
And like my favorite ones is when we both say the same thing at the same joke, or the
Yeah.
same little like quip at the same time.
Like-
and if other people like it, then good. But if they
one of
don't,
my
I don't care,
genuine
I like it.
favorite moments ever from the podcast like happened in the last episode where I made the espresso machine joke,
Oh my god.
and David just laughed and laughed. I think I put an uncut clip onto our Patreon, but it's like 5 minutes of David just laughing and me
I
trying to
couldn't.
keep talking, but he's laughing
'Cause-
so hard, and I just was like, it was so like,
Yeah, actually, we were just at one point like just waiting.
yeah,
Like, can you? And it just tickled me so much. It came from nowhere. I like things that like Tony can his brain does this thing with all of his information, and he just delivers these things sometimes, and they are in the moment. He's not scripting them. Like some of the wittiest things Tony says. I actually asked you, he's like, have you used this before? He's like, no, just come up with it there now. I'm like, then I laugh for another 2 minutes because I'm like, that's insane that your brain immediately did that from one little word that I said, and you immediately. It's a disgusting thing that you said. Not disgusting. Just it was the
I was just
disgusting
I was just
sound.
comparing, the sound
Yes.
of a blowjob to an espresso machine. That's like
And
that's
then he
peak.
did the sound effect.
That's a peak humor that you come to our podcast to get, and people know that getting into it. So that's kind of like the
Big time.
legacy. The legacy I'd like to leave behind is like, I hope someone else starts a Buffy podcast because they've loved our podcast.
Oh, I
You
think they
know,
will.
and just
I think they will.
because I think that's what happened to me, like listening to other podcasts, and I'm just like, and I hope it. Oh my god, I feel like I'm gonna cry talking about this, and I hope it changes like people's lives as much as this podcast has changed my life.
Mm,
Mhm.
I love that. I
I
think
like
they
that.
will. I think you guys have just. I mean, you've only been doing this for a year and a half, and I already feel like you still have so much of the show to go, and you're already like you've grown leaps and bounds. Not that you started at bottom of the pile, but like you guys have grown.
Oh,
You've tweaked
she was
things.
rough.
Yeah, there's a few bumps and whatever, but like I think you guys have done a really good job of like finding what it is that makes you special. But it's like you guys had a great idea, you had something that you wanted to accomplish, and then you've just become even more of that as time has gone on. And like kind of like Dave was talking about, instead of putting on a performance and being inauthentic or whatever, you guys have just leaned even more into that authenticity. And like as time has gone on, you've kind of discovered more about yourselves and more about what makes the podcast click and work with
Yeah.
your own personalities. And you've leaned even harder into that. And so the show just keeps getting better and better because you guys are discovering more about yourselves.
Oh.
And I think it's
Oh,
great.
Thank
So,
you so much,
thanks,
Sarah. That's
Sarah.
lovely.
That's very kind. We're ours, so we can't take the compliments.
I know we're like,
it's okay. It's all right.
Thank you. That's very kind. Thank
I'll
you.
send
mate.
I'll send you a check in the mail.
Perfect. Okay,
Check.
last question. But season 3 is getting close to being a wrap. Any plans on covering the spinoff Angel? I got to get the scoop. Or is that TBD?
No, I don't think so. I don't.
It's okay. You can say
don't-
no.
It's too much of a commitment, and she's booked and blessed.
Yeah, that's it. I love Buffy. I just want to watch Buffy.
I
If
understand,
Angel
yeah.
wanted to fly off to LA, then she can fuck off and go and do her wee thing over there, and I'm going to continue watching Buffy.
However, Sarah, that does mean I have an opening if you and someone else wanted to reinvestigate Angel.
Over our dead bodies.
Oh, really? Is it that bad? Is it that bad?
No, but it's just like it's a commitment. There's 5 seasons that are
Is
22.
it 5? I thought there's only 3.
It's
No,
fine.
5 seasons.
Oh my god, it didn't went on that long.
And when Angel's good, for example, it's really good. When it's bad,
It's so good.
you're talking
It's got
about
high
8
highs
or 7
and low lows.
low lows.
Like,
Yeah,
it's Buffy's a pretty consistent show and obviously has peaks and valleys, but it doesn't deviate too much from its baseline. Angel's like, oh, this is the best thing I've ever seen, and get me out of this hell of watching this string of episodes. Like, I really do think like there are definitely episodes that overlap and you can watch those ones, but don't do like finish Buffy and then finish Angel because I could go on, but yes, I agree.
we'll cover Faith's arc. Faith has
Absolutely.
a few episodes like
Best
in
part,
Angel
yeah.
that
Mhm.
like 2 or 3 episodes in a season, where we're like,
Yeah.
okay, this will inform this, but we'll watch them and we won't be like dissecting them. Probably we'll be watching them maybe for like the mental note of what's.
Yeah, just for homework, not necessarily to talk about it.
I think it's a great show to maybe watch once through all at some point because there are aspects that do change how you view Buffy. There are going to be episodes that come up and you'll be like, "Oh, I can understand it, but the full context will be behind Angel."
Let's focus on David getting himself to the point where he calls himself a fan first before we.
Oh, sorry. Did I just muddle into one of the arguments?
10 years maybe.
Dave's like, I have to understand it in the moment when I'm watching the episode. I should look at the context of everything up until now and not something that's going to be in the future. Is that?
Do you know, I don't. I have a thing where I'm like, if you aren't delivering it to me in the 40, if I have to go do homework before watching this, you're not doing your job right as a TV show. You need to give it to me in the 40 minutes. I shouldn't have to go do a load of... If only the context that I need to see, I've watched all the other episodes up until that point, perfect, that's no problem. But if I have to then go watch another thing and then it doesn't make sense to me, I'm like, that's not fair on your audience. You're just forcing them to... like you're firing like extra add-ons to their life.
We were talking about this earlier, the whole idea of when you had 22 episodes a season, you knew that there was such a longer time for an arc to be built. You could have some low lows. Like,
Yeah.
whereas if someone were to say, pick the 8 episodes in Buffy that make season 3, you wouldn't be able to pick 8 where you got the whole story. It's like, it is
not at
so
all.
spread. So I think it'll be really interesting once we get on to the revival to see how that is, because they only have 8 to 10 episodes. I was saying to David, my fear is that I'm just not going to feel invested that quickly in these
Do you know
people.
what my fear is? That they don't treat it like it's a new show.
Oh no, I think
And they
that's they're
just try
doing
to
that.
rehash stuff.
They're
and that's
fully
a bit
doing it as
thing.
a new thing, and that's I think the fear of Buffy
Good.
fans is that it's
Yeah.
too new.
Nah, fuck the Buffy fans. It's not about them. It's a new show for a new generation of people. My nieces and nephews have no idea what the Buffy the Vampire Slayer show is. They've never heard of it before. Even people who are like 24, 25 have no idea what the show is unless they've been forced to by family and friends. And I'm like, you've never even heard of Buffy the Vampire Slayer? It was such a huge phenomena when it was out at the time. Like, even if you didn't watch it, people actually didn't watch it but they still knew what it was. So I find it really fascinating that there's actually a whole generation of kids that haven't. So this could be there.
Well, that is like they're watching again. That's why they're doing this series, because there was such, especially over COVID, the numbers of people who like watched Buffy like spiked so massively.
But I'm saying, I hope that it doesn't just try to hold on to, because you're never going to make. Look at how many podcasts exist, and probably barely any of them agree. So you already know the fandom is never going to agree, and they're going to want it done this way. And if it's not, they're going to be angry.
Yeah, you don't want to just reheat the nachos. Like,
I think they
Yeah.
need the new generation of in every generation there's a new Slayer. In every generation of Buffy there should be a new fandom that has their fans and not pastiches and play callbacks to the old, which
Yeah.
I think is important to
Mhm.
have that history. But
Yeah.
like the way Angel and Buffy should be two separate things, I think the new Buffy and the old Buffy should also be two separate. They could be watched without having to watch the other one. That's my thing, so that they get new fans. That's me personally, but that's because I'm not as invested as what you folks have, and with that nostalgic memory thing, Tony, has stuck with me. That's such a great thing you said on the podcast last week, to say like that sometimes when you're remembering it as when you first watched it as a teenager. And I'm like, oh, there's so many things that I'm like that with, that I like. Love Actually, I watched it in a really significant time in my life, but when I watch it now and I really think about it, that is problematic as fuck.
Yeah. It's literally like,
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
yeah.
Yes, all of it.
I'm just so curious as to whether they use the same theme song and what the credits are going to be like. Like
Yeah.
those kind of small things. I'm like, it's
Mhm.
it's an exciting time to be a new Buffy fan, because I could imagine David ended up loving the new show and me struggling with it.
Me too. I actually, because I think it'll be out and will not be finished, our podcast. So we'll be,
Mhm.
No.
so I think we'll be able to do it, and we will do it concurrent, I think, because I will want to.
I have a few more questions, mostly just for Tony. So, like, I can go into them, but I don't know if Dave has to go.
I do actually have to go. I'm
Okay.
going to be late.
Thanks, David.
Sarah, thank you so much for everything. You're such a good. I feel a wee bit like, oh, I'm not used to being like asked all the questions. I'm usually just used to, so thank you so much. I'm going to leave, but I'll not close anything until I get to 100%, Tony.
Oh yeah, that's fine.
Bye.
Girl, baby, listen, fuck you. Baby, listen, fuck you. Baby, listen, fuck you. Baby, listen, girl, fuck.
Oh, I didn't realize all of that noise was coming from David.
Oh, like the white noise, like the
Yeah. My God,
Yeah.
it doesn't make you feel like. I feel so nice and quiet now.
I know. I'm like, oh,
Thank fuck. Sorry, you must have hated that.
It's fine. I can hear it. I mostly was just thinking, oh, this is going to be kind of annoying for you to have to edit 3 different voices and stuff. I have a couple questions specifically for you, but you guys like pretty much covered like a lot. I had a couple other questions that I was going to ask, like about the conflict thing, but then you guys started like talking about it. So I was like, all right, then. Okay. So you and I have talked about it. I know you also mentioned discussing it with Dave, but how has watching the show as an adult and doing a podcast on this show that you've loved since you were a child, how's it changed the way that you see the show now compared to when you first watched it?
I definitely think that there was an element of like it was starting to change the way, like just having to absorb other people's opinions when you love something so much can just be hard. You don't realize how protective you are over your own memories and your own nostalgia of things. And that's something Dave and I encountered kind of recently with our kind of conflict, is that I think I started to realize that like I don't know if I'm being 100% honest with my views. I think am I starting to just like say things because I feel like I should, or that I shouldn't? And that's why sometimes having Dave as like another opinion that hasn't seen the show before, like he's coming in unfiltered, and it helps re-regulate my brain in some ways, because I think doing a show with someone who's got such a 2025 lens because he's never seen it before, so he only can view it through his 2025 eyes, is obviously a challenge. But it's a good challenge because it kind of maybe it's good to look back and be like, oh wait, was this problematic? Was it not? And I think being able to look back and say, well, yes, this was, can only in many ways make my opinions better or make me better by being able to recognize like toxic traits or things like that. But as challenging as it can be sometimes to have your memories and your nostalgia and all the things that you apply to like the show maybe challenged or like what's the word, undermined or belittled maybe you because you have so much importance attached to them, it can feel challenging, but in some ways it's really good because it like forces me to be like, why do I really love this show, why do I keep coming back to it? And like when David was talking about, oh, you'd be surprised to know how many people watched it when we were kids, or the people that didn't become like fanatics, you know. And I know I became fanatic because I lived in an area that was like too far away from my friends, where like I couldn't, if I once my parents picked me up from school, I couldn't like go and hang out with my friends after school. It was like it was too far away, and the bus system and stuff wasn't good. So I was like, so me and my sister would like watch Buffy every night, like on repeat, you know, on the VHSs. And well, a lot of my formative years of my own personality were very much mirrored through my relationship with Buffy. So I carry like a deeply nostalgic kind of emotional attachment to it, but one that I've been able to like affirm even more now by doing the podcast with someone like David. It's even been brilliant for when I had my sister come on as well, and like our memories that are so like entwined about us bonding, like watching it. And I love that you've got a modern experience like with your sisters, but me and my sister, you know, we were like 12 and 10 watching it together, and it was just like we were not fighting. She would sit at the end of my bed and like we would just be sitting like on my bed like eating snacks and like watching Buffy. And at the time I did not think anything about that at all, but now when I look back I'm like, oh, I'm so glad that I had like those kind of memories. Although my dad did say to me like, you were so obsessed with that show, it really put me off it.
I can relate. As a parent now, when my kids have a hyperfixation on something, I'm like, please, anything else right now, K-pop Demon Hunters. And I'm like, I can sing the entire soundtrack for you. And I just am so tired of it.
I haven't seen it yet, but it is something I'm meaning to watch. And
It's
so
really
you just said
good.
something there that I think is so important, is that like I'm obviously not like diagnosed anything, but I think there's probably, you know, there's definitely some
Something's not quite right.
yeah, there's some traits there, but I guess like back in the day, I wouldn't even have thought about something as being like a hyperfix because that
Oh,
wasn't even
totally.
language and stuff
It
that
just
was
it
used.
seems
But
normal.
yeah, and now when I look back, I'm like, oh yeah, I can totally see that, which is, and my whole bedroom as well was literally like my bookshelf was all Buffy VHS posters all over the walls. And I loved when my mum and dad were like, they were still good enough to like buy me posters of things that I loved, and my room was all Buffy posters. Like I would do collage posters like on the wall. All my school books were backed in like posters from magazines.
Was anybody shocked when you came out as gay? Or were they like,
Well, apparently my mum and dad were just not expecting it
they're like,
at
this
all.
is normal.
I did post the thing the other day of like, you know, these were the toys I had when I was a kid, and they're all female figurines, you know, from like Captain Planet and Reboot and all these different shows. And I was like, I don't know how all women with these big boobs that I used to love just like playing with in my room. I maybe that was like my
Yeah,
parents thought that oh, like he's obviously straight.
right.
He loves these things, you know. Like I love Sarah Michelle Gellar. My dad bought me actually an adult. It would have been called an adult magazine. It was called FHM.
Yeah.
And it had Sarah Michelle Gellar on the front of it, and that was like my first like grown up big boy magazine where it talked about like
boy.
sex and women and stuff.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like a Playboy thing, but maybe a bit like GQ, but a bit dirtier.
Yeah.
But Sarah Michelle Gellar was on the cover of it. You know the famous where she's like wearing like red leather. It's like a moth costume or something. It was that
From
shoot,
season
and
1 shoot.
I had that poster on my wall like for years, like
Yeah.
a big massive poster of her in that like sexy
Yeah.
moth suit. And I had a Willow.
Dominatrix looking
Yeah.
thing. Yeah.
I had a Willow from season 4 poster on my wardrobe door as well, you know, with her short like red hair, and she's wearing like a red top. And I remember like when I think about my room, I'm like, I don't know how my parents like didn't think I was Didn't think
You
I
were
was
their
gay.
first son, so in their minds, they're like, this must be what every young teenage boy
Yeah.
does, or younger than teenager.
Yeah.
Okay, so you kind of hit on something that I think it's not something that I necessarily have experienced because I didn't watch Buffy. It wasn't a childhood experience for me. It was something I saw once I was, I think, a senior in high school and older. Um, but I know it's something that Leia specifically has resonated with, this idea that, like, this show is something that is so much a part of your childhood and nostalgia, and, like, it actually kind of formed a part of you and a part of your personality. And so because of that, there's a special bond that you have with this show that, someone like me, I don't quite resonate with on the same level. But how, like, because of that, I think there's a tendency to sometimes take people who have different opinions on the show to kind of take it personally, or feel like you are a little sometimes threatened because sometimes it feels like such an extension of yourself that you can get kind of defensive about it or take it personally. And I know that's something that Leia and I have talked a lot about because it's a there's pros and cons to it because you love this show so much and you've bonded with these characters in such a way. They feel like family and friends or extensions of yourself. But then there's, I think, the negative part of that where it's very easy to kind of internalize criticism of the show or people who have different opinions to you.
Yeah.
How do you personally combat that? Or maybe that's not an issue for you, but especially with Dave having completely opposing opinions, or even other podcasters or people who are listening, like how do you combat that?
I maybe would have dealt with that more before starting the podcast, because I think the only reason I was able to start a podcast is because I knew I was in a place where I felt like my connection with the source material, I I was fine with my experience of that. And essentially doing the podcast with David is asking him for his and knowing that that isn't
Mhm.
necessarily going to match up. For
Yeah.
me, for me, I'm all about protecting. I want to protect my experience of the show as it pertains to me, but I'm fine with people having completely different, because that's the
Mhm.
thing I love about Buffy, is that if it makes people think different things, at least people are thinking about those things and they're watching the show,
Mhm.
and that's the thing that I love the most. And I do think there's an element with David still where he thinks he's going to offend me because I'm like so like invested. I generally don't take the thing that I take personally, like maybe not personally, but the thing that bothers me is like if people are like, when they speak in absolutes, like
Mm.
this is shit, this is bad writing,
Mhm.
this is this, this is this, this is this, and I'm like, I don't see it that way because my experience of it is blah blah blah,
Mhm.
so I can get my back up a little bit if David's like, nope, this was shit, this was a bad ending, don't like it, this is just bad, whatever. So then I can be a little bit more defensive in a way, because I'm like, well, that's not actually that in your experience. Yes, you haven't had a great experience with this episode, but that I think is about learning to like, I don't let that negate mine. And I think when you just realize that like your experience of something is so personal, like I like to believe, I know what you were saying, that it doesn't feel the same maybe because you're older, but I think Buffy comes into people's lives at the exact time when they need it.
Aw.
So it's like we just have different
Yeah.
experiences of it.
Yeah.
Mine for me, I would have been protective of it when I was younger, because people would be like, "That's shit," or "You're gay,"
Mhm.
and it was more about like protecting myself from feeling hurt.
Mhm.
And now it's more about like not allowing my opinion to change just because someone has a different opinion of it. So that's what I'm fighting to protect more.
Yeah, there's a deeper issue at play, not necessarily
Yeah,
like Buffy itself, but you're recognizing that that's something that, like, a character thing
yeah,
that you can grow in.
yeah. Like we talked about the Zeppo today, and I was able to say to David, like, as I love this for all the Xander stuff, but the thing I didn't like about it was, the parody element of like the melodrama that happens on the side. And I understand why that's the storytelling technique.
Yeah.
However, as now that I'm watching it older, it distracts me from the stuff I want to see with Xander. So
Mhm.
I like that, like
Mhm.
I'm open enough to at least let my views mature or evolve while still protecting, I think, the core of what is really
Mhm.
about for me, which is found family and
Mhm.
adventure.
Yeah.
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 I'm sorry, I don't know if that answered that question or
No,
not.
it totally answered the question. I mean, and it makes sense that it would be something that you feel like you've grown out of it affecting you as much, given what both you and Dave were talking about with how you feel like you've grown and matured just even through doing the podcast. You kind of have to develop a bit of a thick skin when you put something out there. And I think that's an aspect of it for sure. So,
I think I spend more time defending the fact that I'm not going to be defensive of it than what I
Yeah.
actually do defending it, because people make a
Yeah.
judgment about people who are part of fandoms like this. People make a lot of assumptions about, especially when you're a geek, when
Yeah.
you're a geek about something. I can say that as a self-professed Buffy geek. People are like, oh my God, they're going to do my head in about this, or they're going to be like, I always find that if people tell me they've never seen it, they always want to follow it up straight away with the reason why, in case I'm going to be like
Yeah.
offended or something.
Right.
Which makes sense, because the loudest voices you hear in the fandom are usually the worst. So it makes sense why people would have bad experiences of things like that. But that's why I purposely am really trying to show like a very more nuanced, like, oh, that's cool that
Mhm.
you think that, and not just be like, you should like this and you should like this and you should.
That's definitely a strength you have that I don't have. And again, like, I think we've done, I'm very much like, no, I did all the research. I figured it out. Like, this is truth. And so, like, and I know we talked about it when you interviewed me. Like, that's something I feel like I've grown a lot with the podcast, is being a bit more open to other people's opinions, not just bulldozing people with my own. But it's definitely something that I think I'm going to struggle with. I think it's just an aspect of my personality and my religious upbringing and stuff, which leads me to my next question. Look at me segueing. But you had mentioned one of the questions that we had discussed was, how does your spirituality impact or influence your view of the show now? And I know that's something that like you and Dave really talked about, especially with amends.
For me, my spirituality came after I'd watched Buffy. I had
Mhm.
a born again kind of experience.
Mhm.
So I developed my spirituality outside of like my love for Buffy. So, but I do remember when I would, still reference watching it, people would be like, how can you watch that show? It's about demons and all
Yeah,
of this kind of stuff.
witchcraft. Yeah.
But that never like really affected me. But now doing the rewatch and having had a whole spiritual element of my life, like, I love being able to, whether the writers intended or not, and I'm sure, as people who do rewatch podcasts and do a lot of, we probably do a lot of heavy lifting for the writers when we're like, this means this and this means that. And I'm sure the writers were not
100%.
intending like half of
Joss is
this
over
stuff at
there
all.
listening to our podcast like, wow, I'm so
Being like,
smart. I
yeah,
thought of so many things.
yeah, exactly. I especially like in episode, I love the element of feeling like there's a higher power, but also feeling that like your normalcy can be your strength. Um,
Mhm.
and especially with talking about the Zeppo today, like realizing that Xander's biggest strength is like his love for his friends and his desire to like to protect them, or to be a silent hero in a lot of ways. Like, Buffy has so many metaphors, especially when you get into like the self-sacrifice element of like. I think my spirituality shapes my view of it now, in certain ways, especially when we get to like season 6 and we deal with like heaven, and it's obviously easier to relate to those kind of things than like hell dimensions, because as kind of Christians, we focus more on heaven than hell. But
Mhm.
I also like the idea of like hell being the absence of God, and hell for Buffy's friends was like the absence of Buffy, which
Mhm.
I love that kind
Mhm.
of like direct. I can't wait till we get to like talk about stuff
Yeah.
like that, because even though it's probably not intentional for me, it's very like I can relate to that, or I love
Yeah.
thinking about it. Yeah, I just love. Yeah, I don't know. Sorry, I know it's a hard kind of one
That's fine.
to answer. Like I believe in miracles and I have faith, so I think there's a lot of those kind of elements that like in shows where I don't need explanations, because I'm already a person that like prescribes to like something like faith, where like I don't need to know all the answers. And whereas David is a lot more logical, so he'll be like, but if you have never shown me this before, then
Right.
I can't get on board. And I'm like, I'm totally fine. Like, I'm fine with
Yeah.
all. I'm happy to let my imagination do the heavy lifting, which is very much the ethos of faith in many ways. So
It's funny, your and Dave's dynamic is very similar to mine and my husband's, and the way that we think through things and the way that we, yeah, like Andrew's very cerebral, very much logical, which I am to a certain extent, but for Andrew, like the idea of faith is very hard for him to swallow because it can kind of be the black hole sometimes and the catch-all for everything. It's like if I don't understand it, we can sweep. And I think to the detriment of questioning and curiosity and faith, this whole, well, we aren't going to understand it, so blah, blah, blah. We're just going to shove it all in there. And that means don't ever question anything because we just aren't meant to know it. And it's like, I think he kind of has his hackles up for that sometimes. And I think learning to, especially as someone who, their faith is very important to them, learning to balance that curiosity with sometimes being like, I might not ever know this. I can keep questioning. I can keep trying to discover it. But at the end of the day, like, kind of submitting to that fact of like, well, I'm just not God. So there are some things that I'm just not going to know. And that's the definition of faith. Like it's putting your trust in something. And I guess that's the difference between someone who does have faith and someone who doesn't, is like that being okay with that tension, I think. But yeah, it's very, very complex. But
I've just enjoyed kind of letting you take charge of
not
that.
having
Like,
to,
I just love,
not having to lead an episode.
yeah, but also it's just like, it's so nice to like, we don't often get to see like our own podcasts like through other people's eyes, or like, or, when you're trying to think of content that people want to hear, if you're making up the questions yourself too, then it's like you don't really know if that's stuff that people want to know. So
Yeah.
it's quite nice to have someone else be like, oh, these are things that I've thought. So most likely that is what people in the audience are thinking. So it's really nice. And like, yeah, the questions were absolutely brilliant, like, and really good. Like,
Good.
got David talking like a lot about, I mean, he is a yapper, and whether he answered the question directly or
No, he
or
did. He
not,
did a
like,
great job.
I've got into this like zone now with him where I'm like, okay, as soon as he starts speaking, I'm like, okay, so I know to cut from this point on
Yeah.
for like yeah.
Yes,
Well, we
that's
have a
how I feel
tendency
with
as well to
Gabby and Leah.
not finish sentences. So we'll be like, so I think the thing I was thinking about, and then so it's going to be like we're doing it in our head sometimes, telepathically. So I'm trying to become very conscious of like,
No, you guys did a really good job though. Like, and again, like I said, it basically led itself because I would ask one question, it kind of led into the next one, and you guys would just answer it. I don't know. I think I found this really interesting, and I think your listeners are going to really enjoy this too. I learned a lot. So
I really enjoyed it as well. Like, and it's nice to like have David. Like, David is a better performer when it's not for people with me. So it's like it's nice to have like someone else draws out that side of him, because we're so comfortable that it's like I get the best of David because I've got like my lifelong relationship with him. But I love when people get the instant best of David, which is like when that's where he really thrives, is like in his showmanship. And I think because David does really strive to be such an authentic person, sometimes he doesn't put that showmanship out there as much anymore because he's worried that that comes across as fake. But I think you can see how authentic he comes across even when there's an element of like performance. So I think I'm hoping that this is the journey David will go on. I know he won't listen to this, so I can put it in. I'm hoping that's the journey we'll kind of see him go on, is that we'll see him start to be so much more comfortable in the performance aspect of it, because
Yeah.
he is great,
And just because it's a performance doesn't mean it's not authentic. It's just a side of yourself that you don't typically get to see or you don't typically get to utilize. And that's something I've had to realize too. It's like when we're podcasting and stuff, like I talk about it as a performance, and I know people sometimes are like, oh, does that mean that's not who you actually are? Sometimes it can be like, I talked about this with Prophecy Girls, actually. We're like, it's just a slightly more exaggerated version of yourself. There's elements of truth there for sure, but I'm not this on all the time. When I'm at home with my family and stuff, like I'm not, but I can't act like my normal self in the sense like energy wise when I'm on a podcast and stuff. Like there's a level of energy you have to have, which I know you're going on like what, hour 5 now of recording.
But it's also just too like, trying to be like, I've learned that writing an introduction or like having a semi-scripted start and end to a show helps it start better and helps it end better,
absolutely.
and that was something before
Absolutely.
where I was like, I don't want to write something in case it comes across as fake.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, that's why the episodes were like 6.5 hours long,
Yeah.
whereas
Yeah.
now like you hit the points you want, and
Mhm.
I've really settled into like I'm very much the same way in my real life as I am on the podcast.
I
But
believe
that
you.
is also because I also perform in real life too, because it's just natural. It's just naturally the way I am, except for when I'm like usually like by myself, like in the house, like have quiet. So I tend to like all I ever do. I only ever see people when I'm podcasting. And no, so it's like
Your family, your
yeah. Well, that's
adopted sisters now. I've
well,
seen
yeah,
us like
that's it.
3
Like
times this week.
I know it's so exciting. And then you're gonna be back with us in a few weeks. I need to say, I think the date has changed. It might be a week earlier than what I said before.
I was actually thinking about that. I was like, that's kind of a ways away to do the prom. I bet you it's going to come earlier than we think. Well, we've recorded with you guys once, right? With me and the girls, all 3 of us. We recorded with you guys. What was
Yeah, and
that
even though
for?
that came quite late in season 2, it was for I Only Have Eyes for You.
Oh, that's right.
But
Yeah.
I think that was our first time doing like scripted as well, like when we had like our scripted intro and stuff. So we were
Yeah.
still in very many ways like it felt like
You're still
I
kind of
didn't feel
figuring
as
it out.
I still
Yeah.
didn't feel as prepared. Whereas now I feel like we're in a better
Yeah.
zone, David. But I was saying to David, like because he's leading the episodes now, like if there's episodes where he doesn't like, I do think for the sake of entertainment that I should lead the ones he doesn't like so that he's only interjecting with things he doesn't like and he's not
Yeah.
leading with the cloud of like
Yep.
the heaviness that comes with it.
Mm-hmm.
And I said
Yep.
like I'm worried about saying that to you so that you don't think that I'm trying to police your opinions because like I'm
Right.
not. So it was good to get all that kind of out in the open because it was rough. But let me do a wee end and wrap up here and then I'll stop recording.
Yeah.
Sarah, thank you so much for your time. And thanks David as well. But I mean, you're never going to listen to this, so it doesn't matter. But thank you most, Sarah. If you guys enjoyed hearing this, you probably heard it exclusively on our Patreon first, but it's going to be everywhere. Well, if you're hearing it not on Patreon, then it's everywhere now already. So we're in the future. Feel free, if you haven't heard on our Patreon, to head over there and subscribe. There's going to be tons of exclusive stuff going on there. But in the meantime, please check us out on YouTube, Spotify, whatever. And also, why don't you just head over and type in Becoming Buffy or Investigating Angel on YouTube, Spotify, podcast, like every podcast platform
Everywhere.
going. I should probably let you plug your own stuff, Sarah. Sorry, is there anything else
It's
you want
fine.
to
You
plug?
can plug it. Yeah, you already did. It's
Yeah.
fine. Yes.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
But yeah, thank you guys so much for listening and have a good day. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.